Alexa was not at a loss and immediately cut it with her second sword, but this monster was not the only one. The Duke noticed another one and took out an arrow and, taking aim, immediately pierced the ill-wisher. Both of them were now sure that they were monsters. And Balin asked the princess to hide in the forest because they flew only to the Duke also, realizing that there were a lot more of them than he thought, and asked Alexa to hide again. Only the girl was not going to hide, and understood that if there were a lot of monsters, then it was also dangerous, in the main hall. At the same time, she did not understand why there were no knights anywhere, and suggested that she go to this hall and check. Belcon whistled, and immediately a horse ran up to him, on which he asked his partner to go. He also suggested that she take his sword, as he has other weapons, so he would be fine. The girl promised to return quickly and asked the Duke to take care of herself, and after saying goodbye, she set off, left alone. Balan went to scout the stop, intending to destroy as many monsters as possible. At the same time, he thought about the fact that his partner Alexa is a very strong person, and not because she is a monster. She was strong in heart and soul, and so he believed that she would definitely return to him for the time being. He would do everything that depends on him, and is ready to exterminate the winged toothfish at this time. Other knights fought with the same monsters, trying to lead them away from the troops, to carry away the wounded monsters, attacked from all sides. And the knights were even scared, but the Marquis shouted not to surrender the vice-captain of the Royal Knights. Guyon also ordered to find His Majesty, as they needed reinforcements, but it was explained to him that it was too late, because as soon as the monsters attacked, His Majesty left the hunting ground. Then the knights again used their weapons against the monsters, but it seemed that the arrows did not take them at all. Then the captain ordered that they had to evacuate immediately, and believed that the king had not left them the palace grounds, and that the battle was pointless, but that he had to do something for the soldiers who were following him. But only at the same time. Belford did not know what to do in such a situation, and while he was thinking, he did not notice an attack from behind. The vice-captain immediately shouted at him about the danger and also rushed to slay the attacking monster, but at the same time, he suddenly saw an arrow flying at the monster, which could also hit the mares. However, the arrow only pierced the monster, and then Belford and Guyon saw Alexa approaching them. The girl also began to shout to the Maris to pull himself together, because they were on the battlefield. The other knights who heard her voice immediately turned around, not understanding how the princess ended up there, and at this time it seemed to the Marquis that this girl again looked like a monster on the battlefield. After that, Alexa shouted to everyone that she was grateful to them for their desire to fight to the very end. But she also cannot say that the tactics they had chosen were correct, and she guessed that they would not succeed this way. Durin shouted back that his men were doing their best and that it was not the fault of any tactic, but then the Marquis came up to him and asked him to stop being indignant and offered to listen to Alexa. Then the girl admitted that she understood the principle on which monsters attacked, and, was asked to transfer command to her Guyon, still did not understand how she could ask for such a thing at a time when the lives of all the soldiers were in danger. Alexa explained that even if they threw the monsters away, they would still keep coming. These creatures move according to the same scheme from east to west, and vice versa, and thereby create chaos. More and more of them arrive, and they can group together, becoming one huge monster. She must learn everything, because in this world she can only trust herself, and so she did. Alexa saw that it was difficult for the Marquis to make a decision, and so the commander-in-chief of the royal army ordered the people to split up. Guyon was surprised at her words, for she was not the commander-in-chief, but she looked like that. It was only a nickname they had come up with. But despite that, The captain had to obey, and while the Marquis continued to think Guyon himself ordered the soldiers to obey the commander-in-chief, then Alexa ordered the 1st and 2nd companies to go west, the 3rd and 4th to the east, and the 5th to go with her. She added that they are not fighting to protect the royal family, but to protect those they love. King Raphael III fled the battlefield during the invasion of monsters, and in this he was not much different from the rest of the kings. Although he was 3rd in line to the throne, he became king through Internos War. The 1st Prince Alexis and the 2nd Prince Fron died in the struggle for the throne, and this is how Raphael became the ruler. But it was also impossible to say that this place suited him, because Chancellor Ivan's car was in charge of the affairs of the nobility. The kingdom was protected from invasion by Elle and the royal knights. So, doubts arose about the existing candidate for the throne. Prince William, a member of the royal blood, and the Archduke, and the bearer of the devil's blood, did not get along with each other. And now that the knights were fighting the critters, a huge dragon also appeared. Guyon was even frightened, and Alexa ordered everyone to gather, and then she rushed at the dragon and cut off its head with one blow. This girl was different from her usual relatives, and she had the strength of an archduke and the courage of 200 knights. Now she shouted to Guyon that she had not given him the order to die, and demanded that he get up and fight the vice-captain. Knew that Alexa might have been a monster all along, but now she was leading them forward. He had obeyed her orders, and now he was sure that this was the girl who deserved the royal crown. Soon another huge monster appeared behind the dragon, which looked like a vampire bear. The knights, although they were brave soldiers, could not hide how scared they were. But then they saw that this monster had also been slain. And when its carcass fell, everyone saw the Archduke of Balin, and all the next monsters that appeared also met with the Duke's sword, which fought with all its might. The knights noticed his skills as amazing, and they were completely different from theirs, and when it seemed that everything was almost over, Alexa decided that all that remained was to clean up. But then another monster appeared behind her, and as she turned around to fight the Duke, attacked it as well. While Balon was wiping his face after that, the Marquis appeared next to the princess with his anxiety. And at that moment, she even managed to dream of looking at the Duke, and now Belford spoiled the whole atmosphere for her. At the same time, she thought best to say nothing. She also did not understand why he immediately became so kind and immediately pushed him away from the phone. Marcus explained that he was only trying to protect her, but she said that she could do it herself in addition. She understands the battlefield more than anyone else, and Belford did not understand why Alexa reacted this way now in any case. They had defeated all the monsters, and all the knights were now praising the commander-in-chief and Captain Belford, and while the others were rejoicing, the Duke only asked if everything was all right with the princess, and if she had hurt herself, the girl assured her that everything was fine with her, while she understood that the Duke came later, but did much more. And she was even offended that all the laurels would go to the Marquis, because people do not recognize help from someone who has demonic blood. Then she turned to the Marquis of Belford and asked why he did not know how to give thanks. After all, she was more than sure that another person deserved gratitude for this fight. Now she understood what saving people's lives meant to them. But then the knights began to fuss, and realized that Balin had done a lot. They realized that if it were not for him, they would have been swept away and they would all have died. With his help, they were able to defend themselves. From the next moment, there were shouts of "Praise!" addressed to the Duke, and everyone wished him a long life. Balon was even embarrassed and explained to the princess that she should not have done this, but she objected soon after. Then, they were restored to Kingdom Come. Also suggested that they return to the palace, since they were done here. However, the Marquis decided that he would not return, and also admitted that everyone had done a good job today. The Duke then seated the princess in his saddle, and then she felt that her heart was beating very hard. Beilan also wondered why she had agreed to leave with him, as she could have stayed and celebrated with the soldiers. But Alexia understood that although they won, many lives were still lost. Therefore she sees no reason to be happy but for herself. She understood that now. She was lying to herself and him. On the way they met M, who was a servant of the Duke, and Belkan wondered why he was in such a place. He confessed that Solivian had sent him, and noticing the princess, he decided that the two were on a date. The Duke felt a little ashamed in front of the princess and explained that his servant was not trained in manners at all, but the girl assured that everything was fine because M was still too young. At the same time, very cute, and she forgave him at this moment. The boy also noticed that his master smelled strange, not at all like usual. Lydia immediately assumed that this smell could have come from the blood of monsters, although she did not feel any smell, and the boy assured that the smell was unpleasant, and then boldly rummaged through the master's belongings and found a small bag there. The girl was very surprised because she did not even notice him, and began to ask M if he knew what it was. The servant explained that this bag contained a mixture of herbs that are very attractive to monsters. They create a strong aroma that monsters can feel for kilometers. And if a person has it, then he will be in trouble. Now, Alexa began to guess why her heart was beating so strongly. Apparently, she was still the same monster at heart, but the princess also did not understand why such a bag ended up in the Duke's possession, and thought that he knew about the properties of these herbs. Balon did not know what to answer. The girl did not know what to answer the girl, and she even began to scold him for keeping silent. Alexa demanded an explanation as to why the Duke had hidden it from her, much less why he had gone hunting with the pouch. He still couldn't find the words to answer. And now the princess was even a little angry with him for it. Then she said that she could not trust a person who was up to something behind her back. In her heart, she was also unbearable. That it seemed to her that they had become closer, and now it came out that it seemed to her that Balon reminded her of her past, and she decided to soften her tone. She only explained to the Duke that he could remain silent, but that was the end of their conversation. And then she said goodbye to him. There was a time indeed for further discussion. Such days come, and not since the days of my marriage. Balan did not want to let go of the princess, and instinctively grabbed her hand, asking her to wait. He also admitted that he could tell her everything just so that she would not be angry with him. Alexei agreed, and then the Duke explained that he was worried about her safety. He also asked her to answer who she would go hunting with if she did not choose he or he did not take part. To the girl, such an answer seemed silly but honest. But now everything fell into place for the princess. She really saw Duke Li as Hanbul, who went out of her way for someone's love. Then Alexia admitted that she did not want him to get hurt, even though they had only recently met. She also admitted that Balon was important to her, and she spoke these words from the heart. Oh, suddenly the girl's face changed abruptly and said that they also simply had to take revenge on that scoundrel. The Duke agreed, and the princess smiled again, and then asked him to accompany her to the castle. A lot of time has passed since. Alexa came to this world, and she began to understand that she would not return to her world. But despite everything, now she felt happy, and she was even pleased with it after all. You will no longer have to experience problems with work and rush during your lunch break. You don't have to be an outcast because of your poverty and be disgusted with love and your friendship. Now she is just afraid that all this may turn out to be a dream, or that suddenly the real Alexa will return. What if she forced her to get everything back? But the girl did it all on her own, and the real Alexa missed her chance, and the reborn one now doesn't care that she is called a monster. Now, She is a real monster herself. But even so, she has avenged the former princess a little. Then she hears Lily's maid calling her and immediately calls her, asking what was wrong, but she was just worried because the mistress suddenly disappeared somewhere. And Alexa explained that she was just thinking when Lily admitted that there was news about the seller, about whom the mistress had asked some time ago. The maid was able to find him and explained that he was a wandering merchant, and now Lily had already left their kingdom. The princess understood that it would not be easy to find him because he could be anywhere. Lily also wondered why the lady needed this seller, suggesting that she did not like the bag. Alexa actually wanted to find Sunny's seller for Belcon, but she wouldn't admit it to the maid afterwards. Lily also confessed that the king had sent another man, although she had said that the lady needed to rest. But the princess guessed why, because the king's escape from the hunting competition caused popular unrest. It was now clear that someone was going to overthrow the king, and that man would not miss such an opportunity. This man, Stephen, is the head of the aristocracy, and he also supports Alexa as the commander-in-chief of Philippe's army, and since the princess is connected to this situation, King Raphael can't help but pay attention to it. 5 or 6 times the girl had managed to avoid this meeting, and she was beginning to get tired of it. This time she was about to go explain to Lily that it was not polite of her to avoid him all the time. After a while, Alexa, wearing one of the beautiful dresses, arrived at the palace. She had to feel his warmth trickling through the fabric, and went to the meeting. The king was a little agitated at the sight of her, but he greeted her without showing any sign of excitement. The princess bowed back to him, and she didn't understand why His Majesty was acting like they were so close. In the meantime, he even approached her and asked her how she felt, like a very loving father. She admitted that she was better, and at that moment Duke Felipe Manuel and the Count Gerard Abigail also entered the hall. Alexa could not believe her eyes that she had met the most loyal people to the state. At the same time, the king admitted that, thanks to her, they managed to protect the kingdom and the princess. At this time, wanted to hit him, because he was the first to run away from the hunting competition. However, she restrained herself and decided to see what would happen next, while saying that, not only thanks to her, but also to the Duke of Balkan, she recalled that the king had entrusted her, the Archduke and the soldiers with an entire state, and then asked why he had fled. Alexia mockingly suggested that he had done it for the honour of the royal family, or had taken himself. Raphael responded by acknowledging his gratitude to the Duke, but the girl got tired of it, and she began to ask directly why he had summoned her. The king then explained that monsters had reappeared on the western border, and he sent troops there, but to no avail. The lords needed help, but no one can help them, and now they are in serious trouble. Then Raphael put a smile on his face and added that they needed her, and she was their last hope after all. As always, Alexia is obliged to protect the kingdom, but this time she was in no hurry to agree. Now the girl already knew how to manipulate people. It was the former princess who lacked attention after all. Abandoned by her family, she just lived the life of a lonely child, and therefore she would not resist such words. While the girl was thinking about this, her attention was returned by the king. Wondering why she was silent, and then he suddenly declared that he had missed an important detail. "Lady Penn," he said, and added that the Marquis of Belford would also be there. Raphael explained that they would be there together for a month or 2, and then remembered that the Marquis was now in session. He also allowed Alexa to go for the time being, but she asked to explain why His Majesty mentioned the Marquis in their conversation. The girl also recalled that she officially broke off the engagement, and by the next day the Marquis would be broaching for their meetings with Marquis Town later on. This means that she does not need this person. The king then suggested that if they spent some time together, Belford might change his mind. Raphael also noticed that the princess had changed recently and asked not to miss the opportunity to improve relations with the Marquis. But Alexa refused and explained that she was not going to follow His Majesty's order. He could not understand what the girl meant and assumed that she had health problems. He also asked the princess to stop complaining that she didn't like something and demanded a reason for the refusal. At this moment, Alexa became convinced that when something did not go according to the king's plan, he began to show his true colours. But now she needed to come up with a suitable answer, and she stated that she had lost her magic. For now, the princess explained that the king's order had once been an honour to her, and she also thought that she would forever remain a monster. But now that the girl has got rid of the curse, she just wanted to truly fall in love and live happily. Alexis also reminded His Majesty that he had always felt sorry for her. And though she claimed to worship, for all that she was still his daughter, she also understood that his parental heart wanted only the best for her. But she was no longer a monster. Now she was a normal person, like everyone else, and she still does not want to see her ex-fiancé anymore. The princess also explained that she no longer wanted to get into awkward situations, and the king only again reminded her that the Marquis could change his mind. Alexia was already tired of hearing the same thing, and now she was already angry and even yelled at her father, repeating that she did not want to see Belford. After, she asked if His Majesty noticed how the Marquis treated her, but he decided that his daughter had misunderstood everything. The king also promised the princess that he would definitely have a serious talk with her ex-fiancé. But the girl only repeated once again that she did not even want to hear anything about this man. She was tired of it, and she hated the Marquis's face. No one could imagine how much she hated him. This time, it was Raphael who got angry, telling his daughter that she was beginning to cross the boundaries. When he noticed that it didn't work on Alexa anyway, he decided to offer another option to the king, promised her to introduce her to any aristocrat, Felipe, if she agreed to his request. But the princess said that this would not change her decision anyway, and he no longer had the strength to argue or be surprised. Then Alexa also explained that true love should come suddenly, like in a fairy tale, and she will wait for her fate. The girl also wondered if her father would support her in this, realizing that he no longer had any arguments. His Majesty Raphael did agree with her, and his faithful servants could not believe it. The princess had already forgotten about them and then demanded that they explain why they were interfering in her conversation with the king. The two began to explain that they must protect Felipe at all costs, and he reminded her that she could not abandon the state. Then Alexa demanded that they remember when she had ever betrayed the state. She called them shameless, and declared that they had no sense at all if they dared to say such a thing. The princess also recalled that, while she slept in warm rooms, she fought monsters on the verge of life and death. Aristocrats went to banquets, while she risked her own life for the count and the Cavillas. Duke began to make excuses that Alexa had superhuman strength, but Alexa again objected that she was no longer a monster. The girl was angry that they always counted only on her, and advised them to go and cope on their own. Manuel thought the princess was strange today, and he asked her to calm down and talk calmly. He does not know the subcomplexity of the war, but at the same time Alexa has always listened to them before, and now she has changed, but she said again that they did not understand their guilt, and that she had just got rid of the curse. They also sent her to war again, although they are not ready to take responsibility if she does not meet her love Duke Manuel. Manuel assures her that she had nothing to worry about, and he remembered how much she had done for the state. He also had no doubt that the princess would be able to find a worthy person for herself. Now Alexia was beginning to realize that she was being given the opportunity to choose anyone, and Manuel confirmed it. He had promised that all People would obey her and she liked it, but she suspected that something was wrong. And then she announced that she was choosing the son of this duke, from which he was immediately shocked, not believing his ears. But the princess explained that he did not show himself badly in hunting competitions, so she decided to choose him, the duke. Even turned pale and began to persuade them that his son was not good enough for her. Only Alexa objected, because no one is born great, especially since she likes people like that boy. Hearing this, the king was ready to agree, but Duke Manuel did not want to do this in any way, and asked the count for help, and then Gerard Abigail suggested that the girl solve this issue differently, since such a choice looked selfish. He asked her to understand how dangerous this could be for the kingdom, because she was just doing a favor. But Alexa got angry again and called these two aristocrats arrogant, and they don't dare call her selfish. Their state now rests on the shoulders of a girl, and this indicated that their country was very fragile. She also demanded that they explain what they are doing here, and that if they want to do something for the country, they must also work. The king saw his daughter disperse and begged her to calm down, explaining that they were merely giving her useful advice, but Alexa did not consider it advice, and also reproached her father for ignoring her all the time. She also said that these people are a huge problem because they are just powdering His Majesty's brains, the Count. And the Duke immediately fell down before the princess and began to apologize, admitting that they had made a mistake. Raphael also began to explain to his daughter that these people were residents of the country and they were useful if something terrible happened. Then Alexa began to ask why he called her, if he was so sure of these aristocrats, and the king declared that he was only afraid that she would renounce them, asked her to understand his feelings. After that, the girl decided to pretend that she calmed down, while adding that they should not forget that she was watching them. The Count and Duke trembled in fear of her anger, but promised that they would remember her instruction and obey her after that. Alexia decided that it was time for her to leave, but the king wondered what to do with the monsters. He explained that no one else had such talent as she did, and asked his daughter to help them one last time. The princess was silent for a couple of seconds, and then agreed, but at the same time stated that she had one condition. Alexia admitted that her selfish behavior was very dangerous for Felipe, and that the well-being of the kingdom was a small price to pay for battles. The girl also had no incentive to fight, and was sent to bed. Now she demanded a generous payment for her services. Raphael didn't quite understand what she meant, and then Elle explained that she wanted to get paid for the work done. Earl Gerard was surprised at this wish, and the king also reminded her that it was her duty to the country and not a business deal. But the princess did not want to listen. She often remembers the past, and now she wants gratitude. She also reminded her father that money is the best gratitude, so she decided that she should be paid if her work is appreciated. Then the aristocracy will understand its significance. And for one monster she now requires 2,000 gold coins, and in wars each monster will be counted separately at the same time. She stomped her foot so much that cracks appeared in the floor, and said that she would not be so kind next year. The frightened Count and the Duke admitted that they understood her, and now considered it a reasonable decision. Then the king also agreed, and the girl again decided that it was time for her to leave, saying that she would send the bill for the hunting competitions. Raphael did not expect this, and Alexa added that if there were any questions, she would meet him in person. When she left, Raphael thought about the price, because 2,000 is the annual salary of one soldier, and demanding much money for just one monster is almost the same as refusing to follow an order of last year, for example. Raphael realized that his daughter was blackmailing him, but he could not believe that she could be so smart. His Majesty did not understand what was happening now, and why things were not doing as planned.